This is the Megalitho Forum, that we call it, where we get all the panel, all the speakers, as many of them as we can. Some of them have escaped, unfortunately. We didn't lock the doors and put chains on their ankles quick enough. But these ones we did, so it was okay. But anyway, so what we do with the forum normally, we just kind of take questions from the audience, but let us know, put your hand up please. Jason will come around with the mic. We want to get everything on the microphone so we can film it for the audience that are listening at home on their laptops and computers on the live stream. So if you could wait and make sure you have the mic in front of you, that would be great. So I hope you've gathered up some amazing questions, or some amazing ideas to ask our panel here. I'll just remind you of who these lovely people are. On the end there we have Patrick Cooke, who did the video with Barbara DeLonge about the secrets of the stones and the sights of New England. Next to them is Freddy Silva, who you've seen twice over the weekend, Jeffrey Wilson, John Major Jenkins, and Bethe Hagens, and myself, Hugh Newman, with Jason Matozzo running around vigorously with a microphone. So who's got the first question for the speakers panel, please? No one? Okay. Hello, Peter.
Oh, yes. Am I being recorded? It
yes.
Comes through, does it? Yeah, I have a question for anybody on the panel, but I think I'm particularly directing it for Freddie to answer. But is there any relationship between all of you and the way that you're seated at the moment and the book by Dan Brown called The Da Vinci Code?
Anybody heard of Actually, as you know, Peter, I know everybody by name. Dan Brown and I were neighbours in Bryan, New Hampshire. I'll tell you a really funny story, very quickly. Back in the days when I was just a mere carbuncle on the back of a beetle, the back of the shoe, tied to John Michel's boot, I was walking up and down the beach of Rye, New Hampshire, looking for the one spot in the sky where inspiration dropped down and fell miraculously in my head while I was writing the first book. And coming the other way, the only other person on the beach was this person, about shorter than me, looking at the exact spot on the sand where inspiration would rise and hit him to write the Da Vinci Code. Didn't realize then it was Dan Brown. Should have got his autograph back then. So what was the question?
I was just commenting on you all sitting at the long table, and I was wondering who was playing the role of Mary Magdalene.
Yeah, that's Jeffrey.
I'm the M, right?
I'm a V. Anybody want to answer that one?
I don't know. What sort of occurs to me is that there are very profound mysteries in these things, you know, the Magdalene mysteries and Tour 2012 or whatever. And, you know, the huge popularization of that mystery, I think, unfortunately something kind of gets lost. Like the intricacy of the mystery and the details. Like, as everybody knows, a lot of that goes back to the book Holy Blood, Holy Grail from the early 1980s, which I read, you know, in the 1980s, and I thought that was absolutely amazing. So I think the popularization of profound things often makes it more accessible to larger, to the masses, and that is often the intention of a novel or a popularized sort of presentation. Then it can be a movie, you know, and stuff like that. So I think it introduces at least a kernel of these things, you know, to a larger audience. And then maybe people get led deeper in if they want to. They can look more deeply into it and find, you know, the real juice behind the scenes.
Just remember something from what you said. That someone made that, I can't remember who it was, but apparently the Vatican spent $13 million debunking a supposedly fictional book called the Da Vinci Code. Now that tells me something. It usually is a good way of analysing that, you know, that you've probed your finger very deeply into the body of the corpus Yes. That if you spend that much money debunking a supposedly fictional book, not just a factual book, because Holy Blood, Holy Grail also got it from all sides, but I think it's held up pretty well. But if you could do that to a fictional book, obviously he's stirred up something quite profound.
Well, yeah, remember Woodward and Bernstein always said, follow the money. Right?
Yeah.
So you just follow the money.
Yeah.
I have a comment too. I think that the Da Vinci Code did open the door for a lot of things, and it made things a lot more accessible to all of us. It helped to open people's consciousness to the possibilities that there was magic out there that possibly hadn't been touched or investigated or explored. So that in many ways, it's a great book. I loved the book. But I knew that it wasn't accurate because of a lot of the things that were clearly not accurate. But it still was a great read, and it made people think it was more comfortable to have that kind of entertainment. So it did make it a lot more easy for a lot of us to sort of slip in the spiritual aspects to our work. And people were very accepting of it because, of course, all of the spirituality that was connected to that book. And the one book you didn't mention was Spirit Destiny, which was another one about that same time. That again, was probably before its time. But now I think there's a resurgence of interest. There's people, it allowed people to question. It allowed people to go outside the box, and it opened the potential for so much of the things that you saw today. Okay.
Any other questions? Yeah.
This is primarily for John, but kind of extends to everybody. We were talking about the ball court and how light plays there and how light plays elsewhere in the site. There's also acoustic properties in that ball court and elsewhere as well. What have you seen both in Mayan sites and in any other sites in terms of acoustic properties?
You're referring to the fact that if you clap your hands at a certain place inside of the ball court at Chichen Itza, it has interesting acoustic, and there's a lot of things related to that too. Also at Izapa, there's a strange phenomenon that a friend of mine down there in Tapachula pointed out. If you stand at a certain place outside of the ball court and you clap your hands, it sounds like there's an echo happening from over in the ball court. It's very strange. It's not something I've actually really explored to a great extent. I know there's also magnetic properties of some of the rocks, some of the toad altars or toad effigies at Izapa have been measured by Maya scholar Vincent Malmstrom. So there's the choice of certain types of rocks and all these things. There's just layers and layers of mystery in this.
I comment on that as well. Serpent Mound has a lot of those kinds of acoustic effects. For instance, if you were to stand at the tail of the serpent and you have someone standing across Brush Creek all the way over by the bridge off of 73, you can hear people talking from there, even if they're whispering. The sound just is focused all the way down that whole valley. And that is not uncommon with a lot of the Hopewellian sites throughout the Midwest. They have these sort of acoustic properties. And I think that, Paul Devereaux wrote a book about archaeoacoustics, and it's a very little studied phenomenon, but it seems to have played a major role in sort of the design and construction of a lot of these sites.
In Avebury Stone Circle, there's one of the entry stones. There's two major rocks, which if you follow the feminine line that goes into the circle, there is a tradition that there's a seat there. The church calls it the Devil's Bed and Bolster, and literally it's a natural arch in the actual stone where people would sit when they're sick. And then a shaman would tune into the frequency of the person. They could read whatever symphony was happening inside.